In the heart of ancient Greece, at a narrow mountain pass called Thermopylae, a battle unlike any other was fought. A mere 300 Spartan warriors led by the fearless King Leonidas stood against the vast Persian army of King Xerxes, a force so massive it was said to shake the earth as it marched. This is a story of courage, sacrifice, and an unbreakable will. Today, let's journey back in time and relive the legendary Battle of Thermopylae. But before we begin, if you enjoy learning about history, myths, and legendary battles, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Bedtime Chronicles. Your support helps bring more fascinating stories to life. Now, get comfortable, close your eyes if you wish, and let's begin. Long before the Battle of Thermopylae, the world was changing. Powerful empires rose and fell, but none expanded as rapidly or ruled as efficiently as the Persian Empire. The story begins with Cyrus the Great, the visionary leader who founded the Persian Empire in the mid-6th century BCE. Through diplomacy and conquest, he forged one of the largest empires the world had ever seen, stretching from the Indus Valley in the east to the edges of Greece in the west. Unlike other conquerors, Cyrus allowed his subjects to maintain their customs and religions, creating a vast but stable empire. After his death, his successors, most notably Darius I, expanded Persian rule even further. Under Darius, Persia became a superpower, its roads and administration linking distant lands under one ruler. But with great power came great ambition. In 490 BCE, Darius sought to expand Persian control into Greece, a land of independent city-states that refused to submit. His army crossed the Aegean Sea, landing on the plains of Marathon, just outside Athens. Though vastly outnumbered, the Greek forces, led by the Athenians, launched a surprise attack. Against all odds, they won a decisive victory, forcing the Persians to retreat. Humiliated, Darius vowed revenge, but fate had other plans. Before he could launch another attack, he died. The task of conquering Greece fell to his son, Xerxes I, a ruler determined to succeed where his father had failed. For 10 years, Xerxes gathered the largest army the world had ever seen. Tens of thousands of warriors, drawn from every corner of the empire, prepared for war. By 480 BCE, Xerxes was ready. He would not make the same mistakes as his father. He would crush Greece once and for all. Meanwhile, in Greece, the city-states were in turmoil. Unlike Persia, which was ruled by a single king, Greece was divided into dozens of independent city-states, each with its own government and army. Athens, a democracy, and Sparta, a warrior society, were often at odds. But as the Persian threat grew, they realized they had no choice. They had to unite. In a rare moment of cooperation, Athens and Sparta led the creation of the Hellenic League, an alliance of Greek states determined to resist Persian domination. But how could they stop an army so vast? The Greek generals studied their enemy. They knew that if they fought the Persians on an open battlefield, they would be overwhelmed. Instead, they needed a place where the Persian numbers would count for nothing, a narrow passage where only a small force could hold back the tide. They found it at Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. A narrow coastal pass flanked by steep mountains on one side and the sea on the other, Thermopylae was the perfect place to make a stand. Here, a small army could block the Persian advance for as long as possible. And so, as Xerxes' massive army marched toward Greece, a plan was set in motion. The Spartans, led by their king, Leonidas, would take their place at Thermopylae. But they would not be alone. Warriors from across Greece would join them, ready to fight for their homeland. They knew they were outnumbered. They knew they were marching toward death. And yet, they went anyway. The Battle of Thermopylae was about to begin. To understand the Battle of Thermopylae, we must first understand the warriors who fought it. The Spartans were unlike any other people in ancient Greece. They were not merchants, philosophers, or poets. They were warriors, trained from birth, forged through discipline and bound by an unshakable code of honor. Spartan boys did not have childhoods as we know them. From the moment they could walk, they were taught that their purpose in life was to fight, to obey, and if necessary, to die for Sparta. At the age of 7, every male child was taken from his family and placed into the agog, a brutal state-run military training program. Here, they learned to endure hunger, pain, and hardship. They were given little food, forced to steal to survive, but if caught, they were beaten, not for stealing, but for being careless enough to be caught. The agog was more than just training, it was transformation. Weakness was eliminated, fear was controlled, and discipline became absolute. By the time they reached adulthood, Spartan men were among the most feared warriors in the world. But their strength did not come from individual skill alone. The Spartans fought in a highly organized battle formation known as the phalanx, a near impenetrable wall of shields and spears. Standing shoulder to shoulder, they moved as one, striking with perfect coordination. In battle, a Spartan did not fight for himself. He fought for the man beside him. And above all else, the Spartans lived by a single, unbreakable rule: never retreat, never surrender. It was this warrior code that brought King Leonidas and his men to Thermopylae. Unlike many kings, Leonidas did not rule from a throne. In Sparta, kings were warriors first, rulers second. They led from the front lines, side by side with their soldiers, and fought with the same ferocity as any other Spartan. When word came that Xerxes was marching toward Greece with an army too large to count, Sparta knew it had little time to act. A full-scale war was coming, but Greece was not ready. Someone had to slow the Persians down, to give the Greek city-states time to prepare. Leonidas volunteered, but he did not bring the entire Spartan army. The laws of Sparta dictated that no king could lead the full force into battle without the approval of the state's ruling council. Instead, Leonidas gathered a hand-picked force of 300 warriors. But they were no ordinary soldiers. Each of the 300 was chosen for a specific reason. They all had living sons. This meant that even if they died, their family names and legacies would continue. It was not just a battle they were preparing for, it was a final stand. As they marched toward Thermopylae, they were joined by warriors from across Greece, several thousand men from Thespiae, Thebes, and other city-states. But the Spartans stood at the center of it all, their reputation alone inspiring courage in their allies. The Persians outnumbered them hundreds to one. But to the Spartans, that did not matter. They had been trained for this moment their entire lives. And so, with 300 warriors, their king, and an unbreakable will, Sparta prepared to meet the Persian army at the hot gates. In the late summer of 480 BCE, the world stood on the brink of a clash that would echo through the ages. King Xerxes of Persia had spent years preparing for this moment. His father, Darius, had been humiliated at Marathon, and now Xerxes sought not just victory, but vengeance. The Persian army was unlike anything Greece had ever faced. Some sources claim that it numbered over 1 million men. It was an army drawn from the vast corners of the Persian Empire: archers from Persia, cavalry from Bactria, chariots from Egypt, and the Immortals, an elite force of 10,000 soldiers who never allowed their numbers to dwindle. Against this tidal wave of warriors, the Greeks had chosen their battlefield wisely. Thermopylae, known as the Hot Gates, was a narrow passageway wedged between the mountains and the sea. At its narrowest point, only a few men could stand abreast. Here, Xerxes' numbers would count for little. The Persians could not bring their full force to bear, while the Greeks, led by Leonidas and his 300 Spartans, along with several thousand allies from other Greek city-states, could hold the pass for as long as possible. As the Persian army arrived at the battlefield, Xerxes, confident in his overwhelming numbers, sent a messenger to the Greek camp. The demand was simple: "Lay down your arms and surrender." Leonidas's reply was just as simple, and would be remembered for eternity. "Come and take them." With those words, the battle was set. At dawn, the first wave of Persian soldiers advanced, expecting an easy victory. But what they encountered instead was a wall of bronze shields and spears, Spartan warriors, standing in perfect formation, their bodies and minds trained for war since childhood. The battle began. Wave after wave of Persian soldiers charged into the narrow pass, only to be cut down by the Greek phalanx, an unbreakable wall of interlocked shields and thrusting spears. The Spartans fought with precision, using their short swords and spears to devastating effect. When one man tired, another took his place, ensuring an unrelenting, disciplined defense. Xerxes, watching from a distance, was stunned. His vast army, which had never known real resistance, was being slaughtered by a force a fraction of its size. Frustrated, he ordered his elite immortals into battle. These were Persia's best warriors, heavily armed and hand-picked. But against the Spartan phalanx, even they could not break through. The narrow pass prevented them from using their superior numbers, and their weapons were lighter than the Spartans' long spears. For 2 days, the Greeks held firm, cutting down thousands of Persian warriors. Xerxes could not believe what was happening. His army, the mightiest the world had ever seen, was being stopped by a few thousand Greeks. But then, fate intervened. On the night of the second day, a Greek named Ephialtes, a man seeking favor from Xerxes, approached the Persian camp with a secret. He told the Persian king of a hidden mountain path, a narrow trail winding through the cliffs above Thermopylae. This pass would allow the Persians to outflank the Greeks, surrounding them and destroying them from both sides. Xerxes did not hesitate. Under cover of darkness, he sent a force of immortals along the hidden path. By dawn, the Greeks realized they had been betrayed. Scouts reported that Persian forces were descending the mountain behind them. Leonidas now faced an impossible choice. If the Greeks stayed, they would be trapped and slaughtered. If they retreated, the Persian army would push forward unchecked into the heart of Greece. Leonidas made his decision. He ordered the majority of the Greek army to fall back, to fight another day, but he and his 300 Spartans, along with 700 Thespians and 400 Thebans, chose to stay. They knew they would not leave Thermopylae alive, but they would make their deaths count. As the morning sun rose, the Spartans fought like demons. They no longer held the pass. They fought in the open, facing the Persians on both sides. Their spears broke. They drew their swords shattered. They fought with their hands, their teeth, anything they could use. Leonidas himself stood at the front, slashing, blocking, cutting down enemies, until finally Persian arrows struck him down. The Spartan king fell, but his warriors fought on, guarding his body to their last breath. Xerxes, furious that these warriors refused to break, ordered his archers to finish them. Thousands of arrows darkened the sky, raining death upon the last Spartans. By the time silence fell over Thermopylae, the 300 were gone. But their stand was not in vain. The Persians had won the battle, but they had lost something greater: their invincibility. The world now knew that the Persian Empire could be resisted. Days later, the Greek army regrouped. Inspired by the Spartans' sacrifice, they defeated the Persian navy at Salamis and crushed the remnants of Xerxes' army at Plataea. The invasion was stopped. Greece would remain free. The name Thermopylae would be remembered forever. And so would the 300 Spartans, who stood against an empire, not for victory, but for honor, duty, and freedom. Their sacrifice became legend. And so ends the tale of the 300, a story not of conquest, but of courage, not of victory, but of sacrifice, a story that will be told for as long as men remember the price of freedom. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us create more fascinating stories for you. And if you'd like to hear more legendary tales, from ancient myths to real-life battles, be sure to subscribe to Bedtime Chronicles. Thank you for watching, and until next time, rest well and dream of history.